Shakme! Hello everyone, Ryan here, and I'm doing another installment of some short reviews of albums that have come out fairly recently that I think are worth mentioning, but I don't have a huge amount to say on, and I'm just kind of going to give my quick opinions here. And firstly, I'm going to start with the Mountain Goats, who are this indie folk band that have been around forever now, and their new album Goths is probably like their fucking 20th album by now, or something like that anyway. But this album was different because it was the first time that the Mountain Goats had decided that there weren't going to be any like guitars featured on the whole thing. Like it was just going to be different instruments throughout the album, and no guitars were included, which is quite a big thing for the Mountain Goats, considering that's always been their signature sound, their folky instrumentation, their plucked, their nicely plucked guitars across their music. So it was quite strange for them to announce this, but the lead-off single was actually pretty good. Andrew Eldridge is moving back to Leeds. I really like that song. But I gave this album like so many listens. Like this album came out over 3 weeks ago now, and I'm only just talking about it, which is kind of proof of how many listens I gave this. But I just feel like I have very little to say about this. I don't know what it is about this that kept me away from the album, but I don't know. I feel like much of the instrumentation to me feels very empty. Like there are a lot of songs where really nothing is going on, and I'm barely interested in it musically. Now I know people say that the Mountain Goats are about the stories, about the lyricism, the songwriting, and John Darnielle is an amazing lyricist. This album features a lot of references to goth culture, and there are a lot of nice stories on this album too. Um, that date back to like the mid 80s because there are references to The Cure, Shoo Shoo and the Banshees, and I love those references on this album to those bands because they're great bands that are worth talking about, and the stories on gothic culture are also interesting too. But if that's not backed with good music, then I can't really say I'm all that interested. I mean, some of the songs like I Wear Black are really bland, and also We Do It Different on the West Coast. I just can't stand these songs. They're just so slow moving, and there's nothing going on at all with the music. And again, it just makes me less interested in what's going on with the lyrics because you need a mixture of both to make a good album or make good songs. And unfortunately, I don't think the Mountain Goats did it all that well on this album, unfortunately. The lyrics are all worth listening to, and also the intro track "Rain in Soho," which is I think is an amazing song. I love the stompy percussion that goes through this song, and the backing vocals "Oh ho ho ho" are really good. I think that's easily the best song on the album. I do love that song, but everything else here I just have no interest in. But it is worth checking out if you do like the Mountain Goats and you do want to hear some songs about goth culture and stuff like that. But musically, I'm just not into it, unfortunately. The next album I'm going to be talking about is Mutoid Man's Warmones. They're this stoner rock, hard rock band, and there are a lot of great guitar riffs on this album. It's very like classic rock sounding. I do love the instrumentation across this album. However, I just feel like once you've heard one song on the album, you've kind of heard them all because nothing really diversifies throughout the album, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's just kind of like, yeah, it's samey samey, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's only like 40 minutes long. I just kind of wish for a little bit more of a difference throughout the songs. They do remind me a bit of like bands like Baroness, and at points the instrumentation is a little bit like Vector as well, but Vector have the epic like vocals across their albums, but with Mutoid Man, the vocals are kind of just your average standard rock band vocals. It's not necessarily bad. There are some good hooks on this album though, like the first track, "Don't Let It Melt Your Mind." But like yeah, there's a lot to like with this album. They're a good rock band. I think you should check them out. But you know, it's just kind of fine. You know, in general, really, it's just kind of a fine rock album. And the next album I'm going to be talking about is Oxbow's Thin Black Duke. Oxbow are a band that I'm not familiar with. They've been around for a very long time, like since the late 80s, and they've been putting out a lot of albums since then. I've never given them a listen before up until this album, but I've got to say this is quite an impressive album for the band to be so late in their career. They don't sound like they're that late in their career. They sound fairly young and just ready to like rip apart a stage when they play live because there's a lot of great instrumentation on this album, and the vocals are absolutely deranged as fuck. They're crazy. This guy is an absolute madman of a frontman. And a lot of the time, you know, the music reminds me of like Swans or even maybe Slint with the kind of like slow moving, heavy, like building instrumentation. I do think there's a lot of great music on this album, but yeah, maybe I did like this a lot more than the other albums I've just talked about on this video. But um, again, it's kind of like it's just kind of the same throughout the album. There's not much to change up, but there's a lot here that you should enjoy if you're into like bands like Swans. So I would check it out if you are. And the final album I'm going to be talking about is an album from Mitch and Kassin titled Visitantes Nordestinos. I'm quite late to this album, it came out a few months ago, but I've only just heard it and I thought it was worth mentioning because it's just really cool jazz fusion, bossa nova type album. There's some very dancey moments on this album and also quite psychedelic moments. There's a lot of interesting things going on with the music that they make on this album. It's really short as well. It doesn't last too long. It's only 30 minutes and I think it's a perfect length of time for what they're doing. And yeah, I think with the instrumentation they managed to make some really detailed like moments with adding on layers of different sounds, and it comes across as a really cool album. I think it's something that's worth hearing even though it hasn't reached a huge amount of people, but I'd say give it a listen if you like kind of like the jazzy sounds of like Latino music and stuff like that. Yeah, make sure you give it a listen. And thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe for more reviews, and have a good day.